All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first official episode of the Shaw's Law interview series for 2021. You know who I am and what I do. I'm your host, Rob Shaw, aka the Pod God, aka Harry Potter. I'm joined by a super special guest. Like, you want to talk about like kicking this off the right way? How fly is this? Pat Benson is here. And for those that don't know, Pat Benson wrote Kobe Bryant's sneaker history in a book. In a real book. Like, this is a real author who's talking about Kobe and kicks. It doesn't get much flyer than this. What's up, Pat?
Hey, Rob, thanks for having me. Really excited to be your first guest. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I'm nerding out right now, man. I appreciate you having me.
Bro, you wrote a Kobe, but just give them a little bit of backstory on how you decided, you know what, I'm gonna write a book.
Yeah, man. So like everybody else, 2020 was like the worst year of my life. Um, Kobe passed away tragically, and that hit us all basketball fans, like a ton of bricks. And then not long after that, I one of my best friends, the only other Lakers fan I knew outside of my dad until like I got to college, one of my friends, Belante, he passed away in a car wreck the night before Kobe and Gianna's public memorial. I talk about that in the beginning of the book. And then, the pandemic starts, things get worse. I lose my day job. And then my family, they said, you know what, take some time and just do what you want to do for, a few months and try to figure things out. And I'd written, several different articles for different websites and everything. And finally I had the idea, well, let me try to do a book. And I want to try to encapsulate everything about Kobe Bryant's sneaker history. So I talked to people that knew him, that worked with him, and scoured the internet, watched every YouTube video I could find, read every article, and I think put together a pretty solid book that captures just about everything. And it's such a big topic. You can't really capture everything. We're still learning new things about him, just like the news a few weeks ago. But I feel good about the final product, and it's cool to start hearing some feedback from people as well.
All right. So I reached out to my sneakerhead friends and I was like, guys, Pat Benson's coming on the pod. We have to have good questions. And like they just didn't disappoint. But my first question is, where were you when you got the news of Kobe's passing?
Yeah, man. I was playing NBA 2K in my apartment, and I got a call from my dad, and he broke the news to me. And at first, I didn't really believe it. And then he said helicopter. I said, oh, shit, man. I know that he's always in that helicopter. I turned off 2K, and I flipped on to MSNBC. It wasn't on CNN yet. MSNBC was running, like, pictures of him. So it was like 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, man. So never forget where I was at. What about you?
That's actually very similar to my story. My mom calls me and she's like, did you hear? And I'm like, did I hear what? And she's like, Kobe passed. And my initial thought was, oh man, this is one of those stupid hoaxes. But like, I can hear like the strain in her voice. And she's like, no, turn on the news. And then I'm just like in my apartment, kind of just shell shocked almost.
Exactly. That was terrible, man. That's the thing. Like Kobe, we had seen him bend reality to his will and to his liking so many times. That's why it was like, nah, man, Kobe doesn't die. Like Kobe's going to live to be 130, and he's going to come out with like some bionic knees, or something. He's going to, tear up the senior league big three. He's going to do something. But that's why it's so shocking, man. I still doesn't seem real.
The idea of Kobe in the big three is just so heartbreaking that we'll never see that, because as a guy who loved basketball in that way, I think he would have been very happy doing all the other endeavors he's taken on. But he loved basketball. That competitive itch would have came back for him, and he would have just had to remind guys like, yo, I'm Kobe.
Yeah.
So with that said, what's your favorite Kobe story or anecdote? Like just give me something that you think of when it comes to Kobe.
Can I cuss on here? All right.
Yes, you can.
I believe it was to Mitch Kupchak. He said, "These motherfuckers ain't doing shit for me." I love that rant. It's on YouTube, man. He was dogging them, Jordan Hill and Nick Young, and Nick Young's like, right here, right here. They were going back and forth. Man, that was one of my favorite. That's Kobe right there, just busting your ass in practice, yelling, berating people. That's probably my favorite story, but I got like 20 of them. So that's always like my go-to. I got to hear yours, though.
My favorite, so I'm like always a sucker for a big hanging crossover, so I always think of him dusting Scottie Pippen off.
Yeah.
Portland has 3 timeouts left. The Lakers have 2. Bryant to shot!
But then there's the one where it's in the preseason and it's the big crossover at the top of the key and he dunks on Ben Wallace.
Oh, yeah.
Before Ben Wallace is Ben Wallace.
Yeah.
So those are two of my favorite.
Yeah. Deep cuts. Those are both deep cuts. So you like Froby.
Oh, Froby's my guy.
Okay, yeah.
But my favorite Kobe cursing moment has got to be, I'm about to show them what it's like to play with Kobe motherfucking Bean Bryant.
That's right. That was from Lou Will who said that, right? Lou Will.
Yeah, Lou Will told that story on All the Smoke.
Oh, man, that was awesome. I can't remember if that story came out before or after he passed away. Maybe it was right before or right after, but I remember I remember that was such a great story. I just love Kobe busting his teammates' ass, and he was ruthless.
I think that story came out before he passed, and then it made the rounds again when he passed.
There's a lot of that. You're right. That's right.
All right. Let's talk a little bit of sneakers real quick.
All right.
Rank your top 5 Kobe's.
Top 5 Kobe's. I'm going to start number 5. Let's go with the Kobe 1. He put that out. That was the 81-point game, his first signature model. I think that definitely meant a lot to him. Number 4, I'm going to get personal. I like the Kobe 11. That one's always going to have a special place in my heart. Like, I think it's I don't think the nostalgia has built up yet, but that was the final shoe he played in, so that one means a lot to me. Number 3, let's go with the Kobe 3, because that was such a weird looking shoe, and that was just before the low top revolution. Number 2, let's go with the Kobe 6, which we're starting to see Protro now. You gotta love it, the snake skin, the low cut. That's like the quintessential Kobe. Number 1, my personal favorite, is so weird, so crazy. The Kobe 9 Elite High, like the high top. I remember seeing that when he was recovering from his Achilles surgery, and the old days of Instagram. I was like, is this photoshopped? Is this real? Is this fake? So that's my top 5. But I can talk about all
2 things
that.
from your list.
All right.
You called the Kobe 1 his first signature shoe.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, with Nike. You're right. You caught me. You're right.
Well, I was just going to ask, do you not count the Crazy 8s? The Adidas Crazy 8s are like something like I just remember so vividly. Like, this is the first time I ever remember thinking, oh, Adidas got one. Like, to me, that was the first time I thought, oh, Adidas got some fire.
You're right. His Adidas line, I can't believe it. Yeah, you're right. His first, Kobe 1 was his first Nike signature model shoe. But you're right, with Adidas, I mean, he had some bangers for sure. I like the KB8 line. And then it's blasphemous, but I don't mind the Kobe, the Adidas, the Kobe 1 and 2. And apparently he very much minded. Like, that was the straw that broke the camel's back with Adidas. But his Adidas line, I thought was solid, man. No, I got here. Well, everybody is very polarized. What are your thoughts on the Adidas, the Kobe 2?
Are we talking about the one that looks like a spaceship?
Yeah.
To me, they always remind me of a clunkier version of the Nike Flight Posits that KG used to play in.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And that commercial, this is the commercial where he's in like the really nice condo and he's in the tracksuit and he's just dribbling a ball around.
That's right.
He does something that another game changer for me. Like,
Okay.
just like on the cool scale, he takes the ball and he wraps it over his head and back through his legs in that commercial. And I just remember everybody wanting to be able to do that move.
Man, that's a deep cut. How old are you, Rob?
31.
Okay, cool. So I'm 31 too. So you were like fifth, sixth grade when Froby was coming up, Adidas, he and Shaq were making moves. You were either AI and the 76ers or you were Kobe and the Lakers, and it was like polarizing. But man, that when those commercials started rolling, like you said, that was a game changer. I feel like that's when so many people fell in love with Kobe.
I can still do that move to this day. It's like a party trick for me now.
That's good. Never let that one slip away. Yeah, man. That's the thing. Not only were some of his Adidas shoes really cool, but go back and watch. He had some really good Adidas commercials, and he was a funny dude. He could act.
All right, so he does have some great commercials. Jumping over the moving car. Is that Ronnie Turioff who's like hype man? Like, Cole, Mamba, this isn't a good idea.
He's like, I got this.
Well, now that I brought up Mamba, Kobe is in an elite group of people. Nobody gets to nickname themselves.
Nope.
Except Kobe.
That's right. I think Michael Jordan, what did he go by, like Black Cat? That stuck a little bit, but everybody just called him Mike or, MJ.
I did not know he went by a Black Cat, and that is super duper corny. It goes into like Mike's, like everything Mike ever does off the court is like so cool. Like he's just like he's the epitome of cool on the court, and then like you hear stories like, yeah, I wanted you guys to call me Black Cat. Like somebody should have been like, no, Mike, no.
Sometimes he needs somebody maybe to tell him, no, man, let's drop the Black Cat. But Mamba, yeah, I know, man, that was such a cool nickname. And apparently Gilbert Arenas wanted to be called the Mongoose because the mongooses eat black mambas. But I guess he settled with Hibachi and Agent Zero. But yeah, man, that was perfect because he really personified it. And I don't know, with that bald head and everything, he kind of looked like a snake. Like the way he moved and the way he attacked the rim and everything, he almost kind of like personified a snake. So I think that's the reason why it stuck, and that's why he was able to give himself that nickname.
All right, so you gave us your top 5 Kobes, and is there ever been a pair of Kobes that you just couldn't get your hands on that you would do questionable things to get?
Yeah, I think I tweeted the other day. I said I would turn tricks for a pair of Kobe 6 Grinches. Man, those things, those sold out so quickly. Yeah, I mean, Kobe 6 Grinches. Like, I'm glad to see like a lot of people got their hands on them, but still, it wasn't a big enough release. We have been waiting. Sneakerheads, Kobe fans, everybody, Hoopers. We've been waiting on a pair of Kobe 6 Grinches since 2010, and the release just wasn't adequate enough. So that was a bummer. I didn't get a pair, but some of my friends got some, so I was happy for them. What about you? What's your like grail?
Crap. Devin Booker wore them last year in the before the bubble, I want to say.
The Kobe 4 undefeated
prototypes, right?
Yeah.
Oh, those. First of all, I'm a Booker guy. Second of all, they were in like this like sleek gray, and I was like, oh, I want parts of these.
Yeah. Oh man, and you've seen Booker's tattoo, right? He's got like a Kobe inspired tattoo, I believe.
I have not seen that. So
yeah, Kobe wrote him a note. I can't remember the phrase, but Kobe wrote him a note, and he ended up getting like that phrase tattoo, which was really dope.
All right, we're gonna come back to how Nike has handled releases of Kobe's because that's a question from one of the homies. But you brought up the Kobe's he was wearing when he tore his Achilles, or when he was recovering from his Achilles, and what you said was these were the first ones before was it his Achilles? Before the low top movement.
Yeah. So he wore the Kobe 3s were like the last mid high top, and then it went low with the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He tore his Achilles in the Kobe 8, and he was hooping. That was arguably one of his best seasons. I mean, he carried the Dwight Howard, Steve Nash team on his back, and he helped get them into an 8th seed. But the Achilles snapped with just a few games left in the regular season, like 2 games left in the regular season. Came back, and he was wearing a specifically designed shoe by Nike. It was a Kobe 8, but they brought it up to a mid-top. He called it the Medical Mamba, but then the next Kobe signature shoe was the Kobe 9. Also important to remember, leading up to the 9, he had the Prelude series. It was the first time they started retroing his old sneakers. But yeah, so he tore his Achilles in the Kobe 8, came back with the high top in the Kobe 9, which was super dope. And unfortunately, that's when his body started breaking down, and we started seeing less and less of him on the court.
So you and I talked about how we're similar in age.
Yeah.
Before Kobe, you didn't play in low tops.
No.
It was forbidden.
No,
it was taboo. Can you speak to what brought Kobe to the idea of, no, low tops are okay for basketball?
I think it's very difficult to compare. This guy's a genius. I mean, his hips and the way that he throws people, with his one shuffle is just, people have to pay to get back into the ground. He's that, he's just amazing, isn't he?
His change of direction is incredible. Going out full tilt, his change of direction, he just wrong foots people for fun.
Do you think he's the best ever?
Yes, I do. Oh yeah, I do.
Part of your ankle, that's really not going to do anything to save it. It's really the positioning of your heel. And like you said, man, growing up for us, no, you didn't play in low cuts. It's like you thought you were asking for trouble, and it was super taboo.
And that's one of the ways Kobe changed the game.
Oh, he changed the game. He changed the sneaker game a few different times, like revolutionary, like first time. First high school player to get a sneaker deal. That's really what kind of swayed him. He went pro, and one of the main reasons was because of the sneaker deal he was getting from Adidas. That was huge. Second time he changed the game was his sneaker free agency around 2002, 2003. Everybody loves that, seeing him playing different Jordans and Reeboks, and I have a whole chapter about that in my book. And then he changed the game again for a third time with the low top revolution. So, Michael Jordan's always going to be like the GOAT of sneakers, because they have such a amazing crossover appeal both on and off the court. But, Kobe changed the game so many times.
So this is a question from one of the homies, and we're just going to jump into it because you brought it up.
Cool.
Do you know what Kobe's favorite sneaker was during his sneaker free agency? This comes from my boy George.
During his sneaker free agency? I think he rocked the 3 a lot. I think he rocked the 3 the most. He wore 60 different pairs of Jordans, or he wore Jordans in 60 games, I should say. And then in his final season at the All-Star Weekend in Toronto, Jordan Brand held an event. They gifted him 1 through 30, Jordans 1 through 30 in white and in black. The black were donated, and the money went to charity. And they did something special with the 3 and the 8. They put some Lakers hints, like purple and gold, on them. I want to say it was a 3. I think he played in that one the most. I know I talked to Jeffrey Jordan. I interviewed him for the book, and he pointed to the 3 as his favorite as well. And that's what I want to go with.
All right. Another question from George, who's a sneakerhead himself.
All right.
How do we feel about Nike going straight money grab with the release of the Kobe's? You mentioned how it was difficult for you to get a pair of the Grinches. That's the sneaker that you would turn tricks for.
Yeah. Terrible, man. Absolutely terrible. I think they played it the right way at the beginning, at the early in 2020. They said, you know what, we're not going to restock. Let's take a little bit of time and figure things out. I'm sure they were working with Vanessa and, the estate and contracts and that sort of thing. But everything since then has been so disappointing. Super limited releases, and they get eaten up by bots online, and then it just leads to reselling. And yeah, it's been totally disappointing. And then we started hearing, just a couple weeks ago, apparently Kobe wasn't pleased with the way Nike was handling his post playing career shoes and signature line as well. So yeah, I mean, if you get on Nike Talk and everything, where some of his most ardent supporters are on every day talking about his shoes, it's just totally disappointing. They have not done him justice, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with the Kobe 6. Now they're protroing that, but we've only seen one colorway. We haven't seen any PEs on the feet of any of the NBA players like Devin Booker. They're all still wearing the 5s for the most part. So it's going to be really interesting. But right now, I would grade them out as like a D with how they've handled the recent years.
You mentioned that recently it was reported that Kobe was unhappy with Nike, and in the weeks prior to his untimely passing, he was thinking of maybe having a split. You're actually quoted in Meredith Cash's article because you are the Kobe sneaker. You are the Kobe sneaker
nerd?
No, guru.
All right. Yeah, so I woke up, and first thing I do in the morning, I'm checking social media, and then my phone's just blowing up, and I keep getting this article and these tweets, and blew my mind. First thing I thought was, come on, man, why didn't you say this a few months ago, before I published my book? I got to put this in the last chapter. This changes the outlook of his Kobe Bryant sneaker history. This is really going to change things. And I wish I could have included that in my book, but nevertheless, I'm glad it got out there. I'm glad we found out about this. And we saw some tweets from a billionaire venture capitalist who was apparently Kobe was taking preliminary meetings with. He was looking at starting his own sneaker company that would be a player-owned model. And it was, yet again, it would have been another revolutionary step in his sneaker career, another way he would have changed the game completely. And I'm really upset that we didn't get to see that happen. It was hard to wrap your mind around that he was leave Nike, because he was Nike's golden goose, and he habitually towed the company line. But I wish we could have seen it come to fruition, because everything Kobe touched turned to gold. So this would have been an amazing thing he embarked on.
Those guys from 1996, man. The second you said that it would have been a player-run model, my mind immediately thought he was going to do something very similar to what Derek Jeter did with the Players Tribune.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't connect those two.
It's just how my brain thought, because that's what the Players Tribune is. It's stories from the players written by the players. And it sounds like Kobe was going to take the approach of, hey, this is an endorsement company, but it's pro player. Like, we're not giving the money to the big corporation. We are the big corporation.
Oh, man, that's a good point. I didn't put two and two together, but Kobe wrote in the Players Tribune a couple of times, so I wonder if that helped impact his thinking on that. But so many players, especially men and women, both sexes, would have gone with him and followed him, and that would have knocked the Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, the big brands, it would have knocked them on their heels, if not on their butts. So, I really wish we could have seen that come to fruition.
This comes from my guy, Riley. If you were given the opportunity to ask Kobe one question, what would it be?
Man, I was just thinking about this the other day. You first of all, I want to hear yours, and then give me a sec. I got to come up with what mine would be.
My question to Kobe, I don't know. Like, you get one. I do interviews, so getting one question to the guy isn't ideal. I guess I'd want to know, is there anything that he would change about how he handled certain situations? Mm-hmm. I think I would take a big swing and go, if I'm getting one question, I would ask, hey, would you change how you handled certain things between your relationship with your parents?
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Because that was one of the there's so many different tragic elements about how he passed away. And I I don't know what the relationship was like with his parents at the end. I know they really didn't get mentioned at all. I think Shaq may have mentioned Mr. and Mrs. Bryant at Kobe and Gianna's memorial one time, but really there wasn't a whole lot said about them. That's really interesting. I was going to ask about, his relationship with Shaq maybe, but they had that whole sit down interview and they kind of hashed things out. Maybe about one of his trade requests. I would have liked to know more about that.
Oh, that's a good one. That's
yeah,
really
I would have liked to know about that. But other than that, I probably would have asked something super personal and something, that would like cross the lines. Just because, like, I'm, just borderline obsessed with who he was as a player, as a human. He was just such a fascinating guy. That you stumped me with that question. Now I'm knocked on my heels.
That's from my guy Riley McInerney. He's a big supporter of the pod, and I thought he killed that question too.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna keep thinking about that one for a while. I may come back with a different answer later.
Okay, I liked your trade request things, and then I think I would have, if I got one more, I'd probably ask him. I'd give him the opportunity to do the Allen Iverson, the just give praise to all the young guys, because that's why the young guys still love AI, because AI's like, man, nah, they tear me up. I couldn't survive in this league. They're way better than me. And like that's why they love them. And I don't see Kobe giving that. Like he'll be like, these guys are great, but I'm still me.
That's so accurate. You nailed it. Allen Iverson post-retirement has been so good for the NBA and so good for the next generation. I really hope we all give him his flowers now. I think on the All the Smoke podcast, I think Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson did a good job of that. And, he's humble to a fault, because I hope these young guys know that Iverson was a problem. He was just, he was cooking everybody. Kobe, no, he wasn't going to, if you earned his praise, he would give it to you. But, he would remind you of where he sat, in the pantheon of basketball legends. He worked hard to get there, and he's going to remind you of it. So there's a big difference in their personalities post-playing days.
Well, we talked that, I believe that Kobe would have gotten the itch and, ran through the big three for a summer. Just to remind people.
Yeah, I know. I would love to see him come out with some new knees or something, like when he hit 50 and then still tear them up. But he was so focused on his next chapter, his post-basketball playing career being better than his basketball playing career. It would be hard to see him going back and doing that. I remember when Ice Cube tweeted something one day about him playing in the Big Three, and everybody went crazy, and Kobe had to shut it down. But yeah, I would have loved to see it. I would love to. One of the questions I would have for him was how much playing he did after he retired. I guess he would play around, and shoot with Gianna, but I don't know. He was such an enigma.
All right, you brought up his post-playing career, and this is another good question from Riley. Mm-hmm. Who would you have liked to see Kobe pair with in a creative space as a writer or a producer? There was stories that he was working on his version of a Harry Potter-like world. So who is somebody you would have liked to see him work with?
Nobody musically. I love Kobe. He's my guy. He needs to drop the mic and just leave it there. That's a really good question. I'm not super well read, for being somebody who wrote a book. I haven't read. I don't read as much as I should. The Harry Potter world idea is really cool. See him, maybe team up with somebody like J.K. Rowling, or he also obviously won an Oscar, so maybe somebody in film, somebody who's a movie junkie could answer that better than I could. Like who he'd work well with, for the big screen. So I would say either something in writing or something on the big screen would be cool to see.
For me, as the nerd I am, Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, Kobe crossover would probably just make my brain explode.
Yeah, that would have been crazy.
Ryan Coogler also comes to mind. Okay. He did Creed. He did Black Panther. Him and Michael B. Jordan worked together quite frequently. And I just think as two Black creatives, that would have been very cool for the youth to see. And then lastly, I think him and Maya Moore could have done a lot of cool things together in regards to the women's game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Maya Moore, that'd be cool. I'd also like to see what Kobe could have done for, social justice and everything. And I think his voice would have been good to hear during the summer of 2020 while America was going through that. I think he would have added his voice, and I think that would have helped as well.
All right, last question, and then I'm going to let you go, Pat.
All right.
One Kobe game, you get to sit front row. What game is it?
That one I know it would be the 2010 NBA Finals, Game 7, Lakers Celtics, and it was an ugly, low-scoring, knockdown, drag-out battle, but I loved every minute of it. And I remember it being in my college apartment, just going crazy. Me and my roommates were just hooping and hollering. So I would have loved to go back and witness that one, especially, being there, having a front row seat next to Jack Nicholson and everything. I'd be going crazy. But I got to hear yours because I'm enjoying your answers more than mine. You've put some thought into this.
Initially, it's 81 in Toronto.
Yeah.
That's one that I think about just because midway through, you have to be like, oh, he's on one tonight. I'm witnessing something special.
Mm-hmm.
But I think my real answer is I want to call it the 1998 All-Star Game in MSG.
Yes.
It's back when they still wear their team jerseys, and it's him and a young KG, and Mike is out there. I think that's the one for me because Kobe always had that swagger of, I belong. And this is his first All-Star game. I want to say he's still coming off the bench behind Eddie Jones, but he's taken over the world. Like, the fans and the league are like, nah, we need dude here. So I think that's the one. Like, 98 MSG, the world's most famous arena. Michael Jordan's there. He's throwing it off the backboard to Kevin Garnett.
That's such a good answer. The funny thing is, Kobe, like you said, he was still sitting behind Eddie Jones on the Lakers bench, but he started in that game. He got way more votes than Eddie Jones, which was crazy. Real quick, what did you think about Kobe's part in The Last Dance?
I enjoyed Kobe's part in The Last Dance. It was cool. I actually enjoyed his part. It was a smaller part, but obviously a smaller film, but in Tony Parker's The Final Shot.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought the story that Kobe told was so fly. He tells a story of how Rooney Turioff is his guy.
Yeah.
And he's also Tony Parker's guy. They went to school together.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, it's really tough to rattle Tony. So I say to Turioff one day, yo, teach me something in French that, like, I can just say to get a reaction out of him.
Yeah.
Like when he's dribbling or something. And then Kobe's, and they're like, oh, Kobe, what did you say? And he's like, well, no, you guys use your imagination. And then Tony Parker tells the same story, and he's like, I kind of felt honored that he was trying to throw me off my game, that, like, he took that time to learn something in my language to try and throw me off. And when he said it, I didn't react physically because that's not who I am. But mentally, I'm like, oh, he's trying to get in my head.
Yeah. That's all. Kobe, man, he was just crazy. And we love him for it. Who studies the referee's manual to learn where they're at so he can, like, do little things on the court. And remember, he picked up a little Slovenian, I want to say, because remember, he was trash-talking Luka Doncic.
Yeah, he was trash-talking.
Kobe wasn't right. He was not right. And that's why we love him. Who learns a different language to trash talk? So
I talk about basketball geniuses, and I believe that there is definitely such thing as being a basketball genius.
Yes.
And my brother and I were on a pod the other day, and I brought up basketball genius, and he stopped me in my tracks and was like, yes, there are basketball geniuses, but when you talk about Kobe, you need to just respect him as a genius. He calling him a basketball genius is selling him short. This guy's fluent in multiple languages. He put down the ball and then he went and won an Oscar. He was taking he's a genius's genius, not a genius in his field. I classify Jay-Z in that same category.
Yeah, transcends.
Rap genius, but he's also a business genius. Like he's just a genius.
Yeah.
You don't pigeonhole them to the field that they were initially introduced to us in.
That's such a good comparison to Jay-Z. Like you said, their genius and their creativity transcends the field that we're used to seeing them in, and just touched. My dad and I always say touched by God. Just different. Just born with something different and made to be something different. And like your brother said, he's just a genius. You can just stop there.
All right. Pat, thank you for your time. You guys can follow Pat on Twitter at Pat_Benson_Jr. Pick up his book on Amazon, Kobe Bryant Sneaker History, 1996 to 2020. Pat, anything else you want to pitch to them?
No, man, just thank you so much for having me on. Like I said, for real, I've been listening to you for a while, and I love keeping up with you on social media, and I'm honored to be the first guest in this series. I know it's going places, so really, it does mean a lot to me. Thank you, and thanks to the listeners.
Oh, wait, and last thing, you had the tweet of the week. You called James Harden Oswald Cobblepot, and I cried. And I just wasn't going to let you get away with, I needed to give you your flowers for that.
Oh, man, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate somebody recognizing my Twitter my Twitter feed. Yeah, man, what's going on with James's weight? I know we're about to hop off, but how much does he weigh? Like 225, 250?
No, 220. He's not 225. He's well above that.
Yeah, okay.
He just looks like a guy who he carries weight poorly to begin with.
Oh, man. Well, hopefully he loses some weight in Brooklyn, and hopefully they can figure things out chemistry-wise. But, yeah, man, I hate to body shame James Harden, but in that blue warm-ups for Houston, it just didn't do him any favors.
Yeah, James Harden, untuck your shirt, dog.
Yeah. He was trying to get traded.
This has been the Shaw's Law interview series. Thank you to our guest, Pat Benson. Once again, make sure you go pick up his book on Amazon. Thank you, Pat. Guys, thanks for listening and watching. Talk to you guys soon.